Hey there, this is Jeff Finley, and you're listening to the Maker Mistaker podcast. Today on the show, I've got a very unique guest. Her name is Unicole Unicron. Her bio says she's a pop star cult leader and digital salvationist, or spiritual transhumanist. She is highly productive and creates content on a variety of platforms. And she is very unique, and I just recently kind of started getting more into her work. I had seen her around on various YouTube starseed channels and spiritual kind of coaches and stuff like that. And actually our good friend Krista Risa, the Galactic Fairy, who was on an episode of the Maker Mistaker podcast a few episodes ago, I was just talking to her about a new project I'm working on, and then she brought Unicole up. And I was like, she said that she's selling her own porn film for $222 on a VHS tape. And we were both laughing about that. And then I looked her up, and she had a really compelling story. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to bring her on the show. So this should be a really interesting episode. But before I bring her on, just a quick few updates from me. So I am selling my Starseed patches. You can get them at makermistaker.com/patches. And the news on this is that I started a company called the Starseed Supply Company. And there's only 3 patches available right now. But I'm planning to create a much bigger store with more of my own products, my own t-shirts and patches and buttons and pins and accessories, but then also potentially include the creations of other starseeds and conscious creators. So I'm pretty excited about that, and we'll see where that goes. But you can get stuff at makermistaker.com/patches, or if you go to starseedsupply.com, it'll forward you right where you need to go. And then secondly, the other thing I just released today was these peaceful alarm ringtones that you can put on your Android or iPhone. My good friend Els, I just talked to her last night, and she told me that she hates waking up to the shitty alarm ringtones that are on her phone every morning. And I made one for her since I produce music. I made her a little peaceful, more like, just calming, mood. And she loved it. And then, so she's like, you need to make more of these and sell them. I bet you more people would buy them. So I made 3 more and, put them out there. So you can find those, at gum.co/alarms. That's gum.co/alarms. All right. Now, without further ado, let's bring Unicole on the show. This is Unicole Unicron. Welcome to the Maker Mistaker podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. So I just found out about you really hardcore like a couple of days ago, and then now we're talking to each other on the Maker Mistaker podcast. So was my bio sufficient for you, or is there anything else you'd like to add?
It's really hard to define like everything that I do. Saying that I'm highly productive is probably the best way to say it, but I usually define myself right now as a pop star cult leader. But that's what I consider like a temporary title. I'm going to be, developing and growing more into an entrepreneur. I do have, a lot of entrepreneurial projects already, but it's easier for me to try to focus by labeling myself pop star cult leader at this time.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. Like, not many people label themselves as cult leader and who are so outwardly with it because, and I've noticed, I went through your website and I've noticed you do this a lot. You kind of reclaim some of the terms that have been used by the powerful and menacing, the malevolent power structure like brainwashing and cults. And so you're calling yourself outwardly a cult leader. Why did you come up with that? What's that all about?
It's really branding. Well, it started as branding, and it's really got a lot of deeper stuff as well. But first of all, like my message is that we're all one and that we can all be happy. And if I just walked around like skipping and telling everyone that, and nobody would care. Some people would care, but I feel like the most people who would be drawn to that purely positive branding would already be in a higher place. And so what I do is I take this darker, a kind of a cult like branding, just cult leader, brainwashing, Unicult, and that does draw in like this more disenchanted, cynical audience. And those are the people who I'm actually really going to be helping the most, because people who are drawn to the more positive vibes are already on the path to joy. So the people who are drawn to the more like darker, kind of spookier, scarier aspect, then those are the people who actually can benefit the most from my messages.
Oh, yeah, that's such a good way to think about it. And you definitely have the branding thing down, which is something I'm pretty excited about because I'm a designer and I've been, doing graphic design for the past 12 years. So, and also I'm very into like the occult and the esoteric sort of aesthetic, and you blend that with like this bright colors and rainbows, and at the same time you got this like vintage sort of retro VHS kind of pixelated vibe. And where did you come up with your design and your look?
I think my aesthetic is really just like I really like rainbow on black, and I think that's really symbolic and metaphoric. You got a black background and like rainbows, and like that to me is just like beautiful. But also I do have this like really like DIY like yeah, VHS aesthetic, and that really just comes from me not knowing what I'm doing. So I wasn't like very good. I think it's the same with like how Tim and Eric started. They, I think that their aesthetic kind of grew from them really being limited by their capabilities, and then that just became their aesthetic, even as they progressed technologically. So I really think that that's probably similar to what I'm going through. My editing skills are getting, much better, my digital editing skills and my design skills, but I'm still holding on to that original place where I started. It's been really fun to mess with that.
Yeah, I know. So you're definitely pretty talented and very prolific, one of the more prolific Starseed creators that I've seen. Um, would you call yourself a Starseed?
Yeah, and I mean, all star seeds are crazy prolific. You look at them and they're making 10 times as much as other people who aren't tapped in like that. But yeah, I'm definitely a star seed. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that too. Um, so tell me a little bit about how you got started. Like, how old are you now, and when did this all begin for you? Were you always this spiritually kind of interesting, or what?
I usually say I'm 100 because I don't really believe in age, and I don't really want that energy of like aging. I'm just gonna be young forever, pretty much, and creating. But I am 28, and I really started creating more around 2012.
Hmm.
Like we all went through that awakening, and it didn't feel like an awakening. It felt more like just pain.
Oh yeah,
Because I think when you
definitely.
first start awakening, you're just becoming aware of all the crap that's going on. And
Hmm.
so for me, like 2012 really was like when I woke up to like the fact that I had a purpose, that I was, a star seed. And I didn't really fully understand what a star seed was or anything like that. I didn't have that in my reality at the time. But spiritually, I started to like look into self-help books. I'm a really big reader, and I've worked in bookstores and libraries. And so I spent a lot of my time while I was on the clock just actually reading. So I
Yeah.
would be just like cruising through as many books as I could. And that's where I really compiled a lot of the ideas um, for Unicult, and how I've shaped my life and how I've come into my own understanding and awakening was really through reading and exploring.
Yeah. So what were you doing before 2012? Were you just living a normal life, quote unquote?
Yeah, just a really painful, dark existence. I was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety in 2005, and then I was on heavy meds for 5 or 6 years, and tried to kill myself. I was hospitalized twice and was miraculously saved. It's quite a story, and it's true, but it's where I come from, that really dark, overthinking, overcritical, over cynical, nothingness kind of mindset.
Hmm.
And so growing from that and realizing my purpose, and realizing, that hopefulness can exist, and that we actually can rise into a higher way of being, both as individuals and as planetary on the global scale, is really what I'm all about.
Yeah, I know. I can totally relate because in 2013, I was going through my depression period. Actually, all of 2012, probably 2011, and it wasn't until 2013 that I told my, business partners and loved ones that I was depressed. And it was a really embarrassing admission because, it's like we're not supposed to be depressed in society. And if we are, it's like we're this helpless person. But so many people are depressed, and it's like when I came out as a depressed person on my blog, it's like people were just like, oh my gosh, like I've been going through very similar stuff. And it's interesting that it times up with 2012 as well, because I didn't know what was coming up next. All I knew is I was burnt out on all of the things I was interested in before. Like I had was depressed because I was no longer enjoying my job anymore and the life that I was living, which I thought was like my passion and everything I was hoping for. Um, and then the awakening started happening in 2013. So perhaps it was December 2012 when things really started to kick into gear, because January was when I told people I was depressed. And then once I did that, it was like one thing after another was a little bit of relief. And it was like this like rope that I was grabbing on that I could only see like, literally a few feet in front of me, but I was pulling it and it was like this help, and it came in the form of other people and other articles and self-help books and stuff like that that really I resonated with. Was there anything for you that you really resonated with, book-wise or article or person-wise, that came into your life to help you get you out of depression?
I had a healer come into my life. He was my boyfriend at the time, and I met him when I moved onto a farm. This was in, gosh, I don't know, 2010 or so. So I didn't know anything about space or healing or energy or crystals or anything. I was just like, I really grew up buying into culture and reading magazines, and I was a cheerleader, tennis player, in drama club. I was just like this like kind of overachiever who never fit in, and never really succeeded, even though I was always like trying to. And I never really figured out why it wasn't working for me to like fit into society as it stood. And I think that's partly why I became depressed, because I was like, nothing is working. Like, I hate this. This is like,
Yeah, yeah.
like I had everybody's expectation of what it meant to be a person of my gender, of my age, and I was trying to do them all, and they were totally unfulfilling. And so I think that's why I got depressed. But then after that, in like 2010, I met this really magical healer who totally changed my life. And I mean, I really owe him so much. It was after I attempted suicide and then came back, and I was just like really dazed. I was like, I don't know what is going on. And then this person, of course, like a really angelic presence, came into my life and taught me about crystals, taught me about energy work, taught me about healing. We spent 3 months in a cabin on the Oregon coast, just in nature. And I was able to get off antidepressants during that time, and that really helped. And then it was just like slow progression, and then a lot of societal progression, figuring out how to get out of minimum wage jobs, figuring out how to, because I have my degree in English, so that's like great. What am I going to do? Getting into the tech industry. And then I did end up working for telecommunication companies. I ended up working for IBM for 2 years. And so yeah, anyway, my main awakening, my biggest awakening as far as like starseed and like getting in contact with my guides and everything, was after I read the book We the Arcturians. And that book was channeled during the month and the year of my birth. And I was like, oh my God, like this is true. I just knew it was true. And I'm a really, really, really logical person. So I'm usually like, even though I was spiritual before that, I was spiritual just because I believed that it was benefiting me. And I was like, I don't care if this is true or not. Like, I'm just going to believe whatever benefits me, because I need to stay alive for my family. Like, I don't want to kill myself. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to like logically believe this, even if it's not true. It doesn't matter. But then last year, February 2015, I read We the Arcturians, and I got in contact with my guides again, and I realized exactly what my purpose is, like exactly, like just total awakening. It was really insane. It was really, really intense.
Wow. Okay. So you went from being sort of into self-help and spirituality, kind of basic stuff, and then We the Arcturians is what flipped you into the more starseed cosmic stuff.
Totally. That's when I found Christina Martin. That's when I found all the other star seeds. Krista, Arcturus Ra, like just been watching all of their videos in awe, like how could you be so brave? And then you get your own downloads, and you're like, well, it's not really bravery. It's just like being what you need to be. And it does take bravery as well, but it's so fascinating from an outside perspective, and then to go into that and be like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Was there something that you saw in Christina Martin and Krista Risa and all those people that were on YouTube already kind of talking about starseed stuff? Was there something you saw in them that inspired you to want to do it yourself?
Oh yeah, Christina and I are good friends, and so I actually got home. I was on vacation when I read We the Arcturians. I was in the Colorado mountains. And I got home and I was like Googling Arcturians, because I had never heard of Arcturians. And I had heard of Pleiadians before, but the Pleiadian texts kind of make me uncomfortable, which is so funny because I haven't really heard anybody else like say like it's like blasphemy to like say that I don't resonate with the Pleiadians, but
Sure. Yeah.
they're always like saying like things like they're like tricking us, even though it's for our own good. And I get that now actually, but like back then it really didn't resonate with me. I was really like, well, that's not cool, you know. So anyway, I had never heard of Arcturian, so I was googling them, and that's when I found Christina Martin. And then seriously, that was in February. In March, she was interviewing me, and then in April, I made my first video. So it was all connected, and seeing Christina, and like I know that I, have a lot to say on these topics and stuff, and other people were asking me to make videos. So it was a perfect platform that I had never even considered, and I was really grateful to be connected to Christina to find that.
Yeah, so this is when April of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you first started
really
your YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so did you have a website before that? Were you already putting out like blog content or?
Yeah,
music?
I had a lot of content. I had both Unicole, Unicron.com and Universe.com, one's for I's and three's for E's, which is the Unicole website. And I was making music. I've been making music a really long time. And I've been brainwashing since 2012.
I love that. I've been brainwashing since 2012. Who says that? Unicron says that. So tell me about your brainwashing thing.
Brainwashing is one of my favorite topics. The way I define brainwashing is internalizing any information without giving it deeper consideration. So we do this all the time because there's so much stimuli in our world that we cannot actually take in every single thing. It's pretty like Gestalt basically discovered this and define this concept. But we basically take in just cues from the world, and we'll pick up on certain things, and then the rest of it is really subconscious and unconscious, and it still is affecting us, and it still is going on in our mindset. So and affecting us deeply. And like I said, I'm a reader. There's tons of studies that subliminal messaging works and that it's being used on us. And brainwashing is something that it's cultural. I think of it as a narrative, like the story that we tell ourselves about the world and about our position in the world. That's something that we don't always think deeply about, and we just kind of accept without question. So it's really just about thinking deeply. And I do use brainwashing because I do realize there are things in media and as a media creator that will affect the end user subliminally, subconsciously. And so I use overt and subconscious ideas, and I present them that way. And then people will be internalizing these concepts, but they're aligned with the highest good, and they're aligned with the growth and progression and healing for everyone who's going to be exposed to them, rather than greed, which is what brainwashing has been used for. Yeah. So basically it's a technology that's been used for harmful methods, and now I'm repurposing it for good.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really exciting and really interesting because, yeah, it has been used. And just the term brainwashing, it's like, well, that's negative right off the bat. You don't want to be brainwashing, but then when you describe it, and then you're actually very overt as the person, you're like, I will be brainwashing you. And then, and the person is choosing to allow themselves to be brainwashed. But your message is about living in a state of joy.
Living in a state of near constant joy. And
joy is like a really massive state of being. It's a lot more than just happiness and contentment. So can you describe what joy is to you?
Yeah, I've come to realize that joy is actually all authentic emotion. So, pretty much all emotion is authentic, but when you're recognizing it as authentic emotion, and when you're living in that authentic emotion instead of suppressing it or repressing it, then you rise up into a state of joy. And I didn't realize that I've been focused on joy for so long, but I wasn't always aligned with the new age side of things. I'm more of like a subculture, kind of like trying to be like hip and cool, kind of. That's where I kind of started, as like more like the art community.
Yeah.
And then I came into the new age understandings, and they aligned with what I was trying to do. And I realized that joy is just like what I call the path to joy is just exactly the same as ascension, of what spiritual communities call ascension. Mm-hmm. So if you know about that, it's literally the same thing with different words.
Yeah, and tell me more about, like, you were this hip, cool, artistic, so you were not involved with the New Age community. So there's this whole, like, New Age religion, right? And Cameron Day calls it the New Cage, which I think is kind of interesting because it's, he talks about it's another religion to get yourself all wrapped up in with their methodologies and their dogma and stuff like that. But you seem like you're much more independent outside of that.
Yeah, it's mostly my whole goal is to get people to think deeply or think for themselves, which is really not what most cult leaders are doing, which is why I call myself a cult leader, because somebody tweeted, actually, they tweeted, I don't think that if you were a real cult leader, you'd be calling yourself a cult leader. You know, it's like, thank you, you got it. Like, you get it. Like, if
Exactly.
you're actually a cult leader, you're not going to be like overtly calling yourself. And I am a cult leader. It's like when you think of it as like a cult movie, or like I'm like kind of I am a cult leader. It's not untrue, but at the same time, I'm not like the scary kind that people are always attributing, like in the sense that I'm controlling people. What I'm doing is waking people up.
Yeah, and you have an energy about you that is playful and fun, but and you're really honest, it sounds like, because you're really overt with saying, I am a cult leader. Here's my brainwashings, and people can take it or leave it. You say, join the Unicult. It's really, if you take all that stuff out of it, all the esoteric imagery and graphics, you're literally like any other entrepreneur who's saying, like, join my community, join my forum, the social media site. And when you say I am a cult leader, that's a really good affirmation. It's like you have to believe it within yourself for it to happen. And
Yeah.
and that reminds me of what you talked about when you said that you're obsessed with celebrity. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. Like I told you, I was raised really into culture and like really into society as it stands. And I realize now that that was kind of how I've been like programmed to come to Earth, so that I could learn all of these things, so I could translate these new age ideas into, and when I say new age, I'm talking about like the ideas that starseeds are bringing to Earth, like the literal new age of enlightenment and love and peace, and translating those into these old systems. And so that's really my gift and my skill and my purpose. But as far as celebrities go, like when I was a kid, I had, just my walls were just plastered in celebrity pictures. And I am always writing letters to celebrities. Even now, I'm fully empowered as a person, and I don't see anybody above me or below me. I see myself as completely equal to everyone, and that's a huge deal to feel that way and actually embody that. But I
Hmm.
still can't stop writing letters to celebrities. I just love celebrities, and yeah, celebrity culture is huge. Okay, it's like it's our religion. It's our true religion. People have religion and they go to church or whatever, and they spend this many hours doing this, and they pray for this much time every day. But then they'll spend hours and hours watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians, or like, what are you really spending your time doing? Who are you really idolizing? What morals are you really aligning with? Our celebrities are spiritual leaders. We take our cues from them. We act and behave, and we frame our desires based on what we see them doing and acting like and being. And so to have such vapid spiritual leaders in the spotlight, and to have articles like, Tara Reid dyed her hair blonde, like that's an article. Like I saw that on my newsfeed, like, wow, like that is really news. And so
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with that, because it's such a huge brainwash, in the sense that it's influencing everyone on this level, especially people who are paying attention to that kind of thing. And it could be so much better.
Yeah. Why do you think that our culture is so obsessed with celebrity?
It's idolization. It's fanatics. The fan comes from religious fanatic. It's natural. I think it's a natural inclination, especially when we have a capitalist structure where we're really raising certain things and people up to be at the top of this false pyramid. And so when we've got that whole structure set up, it feels really good to participate within that structure, because that's validating. And so to look up to these false idols, and they're only false in the sense that there's nothing wrong with, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with idolizing a person or an idea or a play, anything like that. The problem comes when you're idolizing it and you gain nothing. If you put someone up on a pedestal and you're like, oh, I want to be and do everything like this person, and then you're not actually gaining anything or internalizing that in a way that's going to be aligning with your true heart and your true purpose, and it's all just like this empty, like, money making machine, then it's going to be empty. I forgot what you asked me.
Well, why do you think our culture is obsessed with celebrity? Do you think it's like a top-down thing? Like there's a group of people that wants to create this false reality You know, this matrix system.
Yeah, I think people just aren't empowered, you know. We're always looking outside of ourselves for answers and solutions. And in a lot of channeled texts, they're even saying it's really strange humans are so strange. Like we don't really understand why you're always looking outside of yourself for the answers. You are the answer. You know, and I think it takes a long time to get to that realization in this culture. So in that sense of looking outside of ourselves for answers, especially when we're in such a spiritually empty kind of, you know, meaningless um, situation, like, you know, the emptiness of profit for profit, fame for fame, you know, like there's no reason or substance underneath those things, then it just, yeah, you end up looking up to hoping to be saved by shopping. You're looking up hoping to be saved by the newest pop star. You're looking up hoping to be saved by this television show, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of like the savior complex. You know, the Christian religion would be like, you know, you're waiting around for Jesus to come back to save you, and what we don't realize is that we're our own savior.
Yeah, we have all the power
Yeah.
within us. It's up to us.
So how did you come to that realization that we are the answer, that we are one, and the power is within us? Where did you come up? How did you get to that point?
Doing it myself. You know, I had to pull myself out of my own depression. Like I said, I had healers around me, and I've had angelic guides around me my whole life. I just didn't know that they were there because I was in such a low vibration. And my whole reality has been designed to be very painful so that I would rise up out of that. It's like a dark maze, you know, and once you
Hmm.
find your way through that dark maze and you find your way to light and you find your way back home to your true heart, then you have the map. And that's what makes you a healer. So anyone who's able to do that, to find their way through that really dark mess, becomes then a healer who can help other people find their way.
Yeah, that reminds me of like your mess is your message. It's the
Oh,
stuff
I
that
love that.
the shit that you've gone through ends up becoming a big part of your purpose.
Absolutely.
Your hardest struggles. So anybody listening to this episode who's in a state of anxiety or fear or depression, take a look at the challenges that they've seemed like they've attracted into their life, their entire life, and the things that they deal with the hardest. And then their job is to heal from those and come out the other side. And then now they have this experience and this knowing that they can be a resource, a healer, a light for other people going through the same thing. And it's definitely part of their purpose, whether they literally call themselves a healer or maybe they're an artist and they just create work that has been inspired by their pain and their struggles, will heal other people just by being around it. So yeah,
Yeah.
your
You
mess
know,
is
it's,
your message.
I love that. It's so funny you're talking about that alarm at the beginning of this, and you made the alarm. But
Yeah,
I did the same thing. I have got alarms, and I'm
really.
organizing a bunch of artists to get these alarms together. We've got probably like 10 different alarms. We haven't released them yet, which is so fun. I was just like, how did you know? Like,
What?
it's the same
Seriously?
thing. Yeah. So I've
That
got
is
one
crazy.
alarm that's out now, and then I actually I went through a really dark time last September. It was like my last dark time. I let go of all my fear and pain,
Hmm.
and I had no one to rely on. I had to face my deepest fear, which was being alone. I was betrayed and I was alone, and so I had nothing to rely on except for myself. So I created all of these alarms and videos to myself to talk myself out of this dark time and out of this depression, and that's where the idea came from. So.
Yeah. So one of the things I had in my idea for the alarm was doing affirmations. You know, I didn't put them in there; these are just music, but like literally recording. Like you, as soon as you wake up, you're in that theta state and I would record like I am an infinite being. I am, you know, full of love. I would say those things, and people can choose which one they want to listen to in the morning.
Yeah, can I play you? Can I play you one of mine?
Yeah.
Let me get it up here. I have it to go off before I wake up.
Hmm.
Good morning. Today is a beautiful day, and you are a kind-hearted person filled with joy. You have enough resources to do whatever you want, and all of your dreams are coming true. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good. So it's
Oh, that's
really
awesome.
powerful, actually. Yeah,
Wow,
it's a really good idea.
that's so crazy. It's like exactly what I was envisioning.
I know it's so funny when you said it. I was like, oh my gosh. And it was funny. I was listening to your and Krista's thing, and you guys were both making patches at the same time. Like it's all connected. Like we're all
Seriously.
doing the same things.
Yeah, seriously. I thought that was bizarre because I was thinking of creating a Starseed event, a retreat. And then I get on Instagram and then Chris is like, post, does anybody have any idea? If there was a Starseed event, what would you want? And I'm like, no fucking way. So I'm like, I just texted. That was the first time I ever reached out to her. I said, look, I'm actually thinking of creating a Starseed event. We should totally talk about this and make one for each other or figure this out. So I think that there's definitely going to be something brewing between her and I and other people, perhaps you and I and other Starseeds like this. And it's also interesting too. I made Krista a beat for her raps. You know,
Yeah.
that was cool. So you
We've all
produce
we're all
music as
starting
well.
we're all starting to work together. At the beginning of this year, we had what I was calling Earth Council. I had this idea for Earth Council, so I got together some star seeds, and Christina helped, and we got together all these star seeds, and we were just talking about like what's next because we're really coming into this time where, as a community and as a group of people, we're each so powerful in our own everyone is so
Hmm.
powerful in their own right, but star seeds are just like kind of on the cutting edge. We had to go through the hard stuff kind of on our own, and that's made us really powerful. And so, in our own right. And so now we're going to be able to start collaborating and really building this world that we've seen glimpses of. This really beautiful uh, world where everyone, I call it Unitopia.
Of course you do. You've got a brand for it. Of course you do. It's awesome. So this heaven on earth, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
this idea. I'm listening to this audiobook called the Honeymoon Effect by Bruce Lipton. April and I are going to do a podcast about it probably next week or something. But it's literally living in that state of happily ever after, for eternity, and it's like we all know us starseeds, we all know that that's possible. And I think we have that internal knowing from all of our histories, all of our past lives and parallel lives, that we are here on this planet to help usher that in forward. So, what's your big perspective on like the way that the planet is right now, where you see it going, and what you think our role as people who are listening to this episode and us on this episode? What do you think our role is in this big picture?
Yeah, it's micro macro in the sense that it's all got to be on the individual level, and that makes the global level. So Unitopia is when we're all living by our true hearts, and that means that whatever I'm doing, if I'm following what my true heart says, then that doesn't mean that everyone has to do what I'm doing. That means that I need to do what I'm doing, and then everybody else lets me do that and promotes me and helps me do that. And then also that happens to everyone. You do what your true heart wants you to do, and everybody else supports you and does that, and the listener does whatever their true heart wants to do, and we all support them with that. And when we're all living in accordance with our true hearts, that's harmonious, that's harmony. So we're in this disharmony right now because we're all doing things we don't want to do. We're all out of alignment with what we're actually wanting to be doing, and society's set up to make it so that we can't we can't live our true life, it's not that we can't, because we can, but it's very difficult at this time. But
Hmm.
society will become much easier in that sense. We're going to be starting businesses that are taking more awareness for the needs of the employee. The employees are going to be able to provide more for the companies, and it's just everything's going to become easier. Technology is going to help us ascend. It's all actually happening. It's so funny because I'm always surrounded by people like you and like star seeds who are already knowing this, and then I talk to a few friends from my past or whatever who are still stuck in that cynical, pessimistic state, and they haven't changed that into hopefulness yet. And that is, it's not a bad thing, but it's always a shock to me because they're like, oh, I hope what you're saying is right, and I'm like, what? No, it's right. Like it's happening. It's already happening.
Yeah, because your brain, your frequency is attuned to the positive action that's actually already happening. You're part of the ones creating it, but your vision sees it. A lot of these people, they're like, their vision is either based on what the media gives them, which is very fear based, or the people that are directly surrounding them, which maybe are not also hopeful. Um, you know, I don't like to pick on my mom too much about this, but she's definitely in the state where she's well aware of all of the bad that's going on in the world, and she's very vigilant and defensive about like the future, and she thinks the future is going to be really really bad.
Collapse, war,
Yeah,
zombie mentality. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And there's people out there that definitely preach that, but I think that you get to a saturation point when you immerse yourself in that material that you're just like, Good gravy. Like, is there any hope in all of this? And then it's like, well, what can I possibly do? What is my job? I can't sit there and continue to post on Facebook and try to wake people up.
Right.
Wake up the
Wake up,
sheeple.
sheeple.
Like, okay, that just becomes total noise, and people start to hate you. Like people get really annoyed with you, and they want to leave Facebook, which I've done before, but
I think we've all been through that. Like
yeah.
that's a necessary stage to go through. The conspiracy theorist, recognizing, seeing the lies in order to find the truth. I think of it just as a stage, like in enlightenment. Because the way I see the path to joy is cynicism turned into hopefulness, and then truth. And so cynicism is the first step on the path to joy. If you're cynical about the world, that means you're waking up, that means you're aware. But then all it takes is to change that cynicism into hopefulness and be like, no, okay, it's bad, but it's going to get better. And as soon as you do that, like everything shifts and changes for you.
Yes, tell me more about your path to joy. I saw you listed out on your website. Can you give us a breakdown?
Yeah, it's cynicism to hopefulness, and then truth, listening to your heart. Um, it's 5 steps, and I actually don't have them memorized. I don't know which ones go first, but then there's creativity, which is creating your own reality, creating as much of your consumption as possible. As consumption really gets us down. We feel guilty for our consumption, especially in Western countries, and just with all of our wealth, and we know that all of this consumption is like killing the planet. We think of it all in this like really bad way, but then also we need to be consuming to survive. That's what life is. And so how do we find this balance? And the balance comes with creation. So creation, I say creation is the cure to consumption. So when we're able to create as much of our realities as possible with ideas, with businesses, with inventions, with art, with relationships, with community, creating our realities, and creating what we consume, creating our own media is huge. Then we're going to be ascending into a higher way of being. And then the last step is time and dedication, because it's not, unfortunately, it's like really slow.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to get to a state of near constant joy. But it does come.
Is this what the old masters would just call the state of enlightenment or nirvana?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't actually know that constant joy existed, but since I let go of all my fear and pain in September, or I guess it was November, I live in a state of constant joy. And that doesn't mean that bad things haven't happened and I haven't gone through like challenges, but I have been able to see the love and the joy. And it's a really ascended state, and I never thought I would reach it. So I have the highest hope for everyone and all of humanity.
So that's amazing. It sounds so simple. You said, I let
I
go of
know.
all my fear and pain in September. Like, so all you listeners, that's just do that. After you're
Just
done with
do
this
it.
episode, let go of all your fear and pain.
Just like let it go, because it's a choice. And that's what's so crazy. I say, I have all these, I think of my tweets as quotes. But inevitable hardship is here to show us that suffering is a choice. Because yes, you're going to experience hardship. Everyone does. And then we suffer, and suffering is fine to have for a little while, but our ego is actually just attachment. When people say ego as like a negative thing, what they actually mean is just attachment. And we are attaching value to pain and value to fear. We think that it's going to be protecting us or keeping us safe, but you can actually choose to let go of that, and you can choose to just feel love instead. It takes practice, and it takes a lot of going through a lot of hardship in order to work your way through it to finally figure out what that means. But it is just a simple choice, which is really weird.
Yeah. Okay. You said something really big there. Okay. So talk about the power of choice. Like, we are infinite beings. We have free will, but
Mm-hmm.
we have convinced ourselves that we don't have choice, that we're stuck with the job that we have or the bad relationships that we're in. So, and we've heard all along that like happiness is a choice. People would tell that to me,
It's offensive, huh?
and it would be like, well, yeah, easy for you to say because you don't have to worry about where your next paycheck's coming from or this or that. So talk about how that actually is a choice and how that works on like a pretty practical level.
Yeah, the power of positive thinking is no joke. And when you're depressed and you hear somebody say happiness is a choice, it really can offend you and make you want to just prove them wrong, because we do hold this really strong attachment to our pain, and because it is very blinding and it doesn't feel like you have control over it. But I found that coming out of depression is like it's like lifting weights. So you've got like this huge barbell, and you're like, well, I couldn't possibly lift that. People are like, well, just lift it. All you have to do is lift it. And you're like, I can't. Like, I can't just lift that huge weight. Like, there's no, you don't understand. Like, I can't. But it's not about lifting that big weight. It's about lifting little weights. It's about monitoring your thoughts and catching it in the smallest way and saying, okay, I have a self-deprecating thought there. How can I change that into a self-loving thought? And then you do that, all day, every day for like a year, and you make these big changes in your life. You cut out people who are harming you. You quit jobs that are harming you. You find your true purpose. It's like really big things. But it's like a day-to-day small weight. And then finally, after enough time has passed and you've dealt with enough stuff, you've gotten strong enough and you can lift that big weight. So happiness is a choice. Yes, you can lift that big weight, but it does take work. It does take time and dedication. And it is a choice, but it's a choice to start lifting weights.
Yeah, and usually when you're in that state of depression, I think the best thing to do is really just look for your closest feeling of relief. Like that's the small barbell, that's the small weight. And it may just be going into the park and feeling breathing in the fresh air might give you a little bit of relief. And then you just follow that little nugget of relief and just allow yourself that privilege of going down that path, because and I can be depressed and I can feel my own suffering and pain, but it's different now. Like after I've gone through that depression period and I've done all of this spiritual work and everything for the past couple of years, and it's not like I was following someone else's instructions. I'm literally following that grain of relief and inspiration and curiosity. And so it's not like I knew the plan on how to like get to where I'm at today. It's just a day by day thing. And so this is where it's taken me. But yet now I can feel this pain and wrap it in a space of acceptance and love. And it's completely different. You feel pain, but you no longer feel like this helpless suffering around it that you used to feel before. Sometimes the pain is more intense though. Sometimes it's like, whoa, holy shit, I hurt really bad. Like, and it has, like, I went on a date the other day and she didn't text me back after the date. And it's like so simple, but I was feeling so much pain coming up to deal with, to be confronted and healed, that it's like, whoa, okay, just let it go, be able to let it go. But it's strange. Something like that might not would have bothered me before, but I think perhaps I would have distracted myself a lot better with movies, video games, coffee and friends, and I would just deny it and try to not think about it. But now it's like, I love kind of feeling that emotion come up, and I allow myself to take a long nap and sit with it and meditate with it and try to ask what it is here to teach me for. So pain is different now, and hopefully I won't have as much of that as I go and integrate whatever that lost part of myself is, that the pain, and detaching. Another example of letting go of the attachment to the results and
accepting. You have to accept it. If you're trying to fight it and say, well, I'm not supposed to be feeling pain, I'm ascended now, like you're gonna totally. stay in pain. I went through a really bad breakup in September, like I was explaining, and like betrayal and everything, and I was so mad because there was like a lot of lying, and all I care about is honesty, like I don't even know how I put myself into that situation, but I was so mad. I've never felt such anger. And I'm like, it's driving me crazy because I just kept thinking, I'm supposed to be able to like overcome this. Like, I know what I'm doing spiritually. Like I could see it, I'm like, I know that whatever's after this is going to be so much better than I can even imagine, which it is. And even though I knew all that, I still was raging. I was mad. And I look back now and I'm like, I had every right to be mad. Here's like a relationship that I was like expecting to be like stable and good and like the one relationship or whatever. And like, this is what it comes down to, is like the most petty, like dishonest stuff. And so, I made my like phone screen. I like changed my phone screen to be like let it go, like all these like let it goes in my reality, just like all around me. And eventually I did work through it. But I think part of it is just accepting, like, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel sad if somebody doesn't text you after a date. Like it doesn't like make you like less of a enlightened person. It makes you an enlightened person to experience emotions. Like, you're allowed to experience the full spectrum of emotions. We're humans. There's hardship. Like, but the thing is that it's not being attached to that. and it's just keeping to grow. It's keeping progression.
I think that's the catch that people talk about is like a lot of times in New Age circles, there's this idea that like, oh, you're feeling sad. Well, you're doing it wrong. You must be, got to raise your vibration, get out of your sadness. Or like, you can't be angry because that's a low vibration. You know, there's like this cutoff of like of a spectrum of human emotion that they think you're not allowed to feel, experience because it's bad or something like that. But I love your perspective, and I would agree with it too, where you're allowing all emotion to exist within you. Like me as someone, I'm a very positive person all the time. You know, there's very, very rare where I feel rageful or angry. And
yeah, no, it's like the first time I've been so
I know, you're like, whoa, where's that coming from?
It was wild.
And I think that's actually okay, because I mean, I went to like a hypnotherapist one time to kind of, she wanted to do some regression on me, and she was practicing, so she had me try to face some of my angers. And I was like, there's this one particular person that was in my life that had really hurt me, but I was already in a state where I was very much forgiving and past it, but I still was dealing with a lot of sadness and conflict inside. And so she's trying to find my anger, and I couldn't find it, because I'm like, do I really stuff it down so far, or do I just not feel angry? So I tried to pretend that I was angry, and it was really awkward. I was trying to pretend that, and I had this little rubber hose that she wanted me to hit the bench with. So I was like, well, I don't want her to think that I'm like not very good at this therapy, so I better try to like look like I'm mad or something. And so I'm doing it, and then it's like I got more like embarrassed because it didn't feel authentic to me. I'm like, why am I trying to pull out an emotion through this process when all I really need to do is just allow whatever emotion I'm feeling to actually exist and not have to go hunting for it? You know, like if I don't feel angry in the moment, why should I bother trying to find find it somewhere?
And if you don't feel happy in the moment, like the way I see it is we should only be feeling what's been, not feeling, but we should only focus on what's beneficial for us to focus on. So if it's beneficial for you to focus on happiness, usually for most people it is beneficial to focus on positivity and happiness, then that's what we should be focusing on. It's not beneficial to focus on anger necessarily, but it's okay to have it. You don't have to like pretend like you don't have emotions you don't have. You don't ever need to do that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, unless you're trying to make your therapist feel validated, which is something stupid that I would do.
A totally backwards thing. I know. And that's really like one of the keys to enlightenment, and one of the keys to our society really rising up is this state of authenticity, and is this place of truth where we've been lied to so much, and all of advertising is based on falseness and presenting things not as they are, and trying to make you feel a lack when you don't actually have a lack, so that you buy into this broken system that's not actually helping us, and debt and everything like that. So authenticity is just coming from, basically it's working with technology. Technology is making us all more authentic. The fact that anybody can record a cop in the street, and the fact that cheaters are being outed on Ashley Madison. Technology is making us more honest and authentic, and that is the future. So it doesn't, and that's why I say joy is all authentic emotion, because your anger or lack of anger is authentic, and you can accept it, and you can, we should have a world where that is allowed.
Yeah, and something else I heard about that is that the planet itself is helping usher in the age of transparency and honesty. Do you have any thoughts on the planet's involvement and Mother Earth?
I don't think we know half of what's real.
Totally.
I think of us as infinitely dimensional beings, and I think of Earth as the same. So the Earth exists on these other dimensions as we do, and she's working as we are on these other levels. And so, yeah, undoubtedly, she is our mother. She is completely connected to every single one of us. She nourishes us. She supports us. She gives us life. She has this unlimited energy. And I actually had this experience where I channeled the Earth directly one time. I was like drunk and high on top of a mountain in a rainstorm, like just channeling the Earth. And like I didn't know what I was doing because it was before I was even like awake. But it's weird how like I don't really drink that much ever really, and that lowering of inhibitions as translated into my reality just means I'm doing something like channeling the Earth. I'm not like sleeping with strangers or something. I'm like channeling the Earth.
That's the best.
But basically, she told me that our joy is her joy, our health is her health. So when we're healthy, she'll be healthy. We don't have to focus so much on like, stop polluting, you're killing the earth. It's like when we heal ourselves, the earth will be healed as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really one of the biggest takeaways is it starts from within. You have to heal yourself, and that's all you really have to do. So many people our age feel like they've got to change the world, and so they want to be a big deal and go help other people and give shoes to people in Africa, and that makes the rest of us feel guilty if we're just like a painter or something or a musician, and we want to make music or pop music, Like if you, God forbid, you're actually into pop music and pop culture and you're into celebrity, like that's not helping people in Africa, but actually it really is because, you're doing your part by being authentic and true to yourself. And then you're an inspiration for other people it's like a permission slip for other people to say, I can do that too. Like, okay. And then we support each other in our role. That's what Starseed Supply Company eventually wants to be, supporting each individual Starseed creator in that world.
Well, yeah, and like Unicole's way bigger of an idea than it looks at this time. It's going to grow into something bigger, and eventually I would like to be employing people to do whatever they want, paying people to do whatever they want, and then have that work financially. So it's a really futuristic idea, but in the next, 10 years, I can actually see it being a feasible possibility. So it's really exciting to have all these star seeds on Earth with these really futuristic ideas and organizing them into. I'm an organizer, so I can already see where everybody fits and like using everybody's skills however they want to use them in a way that just makes it better for all of us. The way we view profit and pain and everything is like, okay, well, I can only be rich if I take all this wealth from other people, or we can't focus, like when people are always saying like all lives matter instead of Black Lives Matter, like you're just taking away from the fact that like all pain is legitimate. We can focus on Black pain at this time and heal it, and it doesn't need to be about all of us at once, because your pain is also valid. Like we can have white pain and we can focus on white pain and we can heal that as well. Focusing on one particular group, focusing on your own pain doesn't mean that you're taking away from Africa. You can focus on yourself. You can focus on, LGBT issues. You can focus on like these different aspects. Focusing on one particular person or one particular group's pain never takes away from healing other people. We can heal all of it.
Yeah.
We don't have to like be jumping on these things and saying, oh, well, but what about me? But what about them? But what about this? It's like, yes. Yes.
Yes to all of it. Yeah, that is the primary reaction when you see something like that. You see that, hold on a second, someone's knocking on my door. 1 second. Yes, hi. No, okay. I'm sorry, I'm not in the Okay, have a good day. I think it was a door-to-door bread saleswoman. She was Hispanic, and she was asking me if I wanted one, and I was like so confused. I'm like in the middle of this podcast, and I'm like, I don't want a piece of bread right now. Sorry. So random. I don't even know where we were talking about, but
I think we somehow ended up on like healing pain in the world and.
Okay. After this distraction, I do want to talk to you about paying attention. And that's something that you bring up in your videos and you talk about on your blog and stuff like that. So this idea of focus, we're talking about, you can focus on anything, and what we pay attention to flourishes. You've got a plant, you water it, you pay attention to it, it grows. But like the ones that you don't pay attention to or don't water, they'll die. And that's the power of like consciousness. It's like our ability to laser it in on something very specific for a short period of time, will definitely help a part of ourselves or whatever we're focusing on thrive. So you say in your videos, you say, thank you for your attention. So tell me what attention is to you and where you came up with that thing. Why is that a big deal?
Yeah, you described it really well. I believe we are the guardians of this planet. I believe that our attention is magic. I call attention a commodity, and then I call it a commodity because attention is no joke. And it's just like you said. I don't even think the way that we understand science right now is that the physical world created consciousness. But that I don't think is true. I think consciousness created the physical world. And so in that understanding, attention is completely holy. And attention creates our reality. Attention creates our world. Attention creates everything. And that doesn't mean that I don't know. There's a lot of fine lines where people say, well, what about it's not like I could just imagine this or that. And it's like, there's a lot of examples where you actually could. So just because attention isn't only in your mind, attention is also in your hands. Attention is also in your conversations with other people. Attention is in your daily work. It's not just like you sit there and you focus on it in your mind and that's the end of the story. Attention has to do with how you're internalizing something, how you're applying it to your own life. And once you realize the power of attention, then advertising makes sense and TV makes sense. And
Why people want to be famous.
Yeah, and I think there is that sort of understood. I mean, fame is a really complex and interesting topic because fame doesn't actually it's not actually like a really good state for humans to exist in necessarily. A lot of humans don't actually thrive being in the spotlight and being famous, and everybody kind of knows that, but a lot of us still want to be famous and some of us don't. And so that's a really interesting distinction between people who want to be famous and people who don't. And I've always wanted to be famous ever since I was really young. Again, part of my purpose. And I recognize the things that I will give up as a famous person when I do reach the state of celebrity that I've manifested. But it's definitely, I think it can be uncomfortable to have that much attention and not be able to filter it into things. But when I don't even know how to talk about it, but as an energy worker, as a witch, taking that attention and filtering it back out into the people who are giving me attention and using it as an energy to benefit them directly is why I like that.
Yeah, and I like where you're going with the celebrity thing. I think it's going to transition into your sex tape that you're releasing. So, okay. So tell people about your sex tape and why you decided you wanted to create it and how it fits into your vision.
Unicorn is a self-shot, self-edited, self-written, self-starring, self-made completely pornography, starring just me. I have a friend in it who's helping me establish some plot because it does have 3 different plots. And I do this thing where I spend a lot of time in my head and then I just walk around after I realize what I've realized, and then I expect everybody else to know what I've realized, and no one knows what I'm talking about. And so that did happen with this particular project. I did not take the time or care to explain to my followers what it meant to me to be making a pornography until really recently. I did that finally. But I had all these people urging me not to do it, and I didn't understand it because I had already figured it out in my own head, all of the benefits and reasons and what it would look like and what it would be like, and to me it makes perfect sense as part of the trajectory of being a famous person, the ownership of celebrity bodies, being really owning my sexuality as a spiritual leader and saying sexuality is holy, and there's all these reasons. And
so you've got a lot of good reasons. If so, the listeners, you should go to your Unicole Unicron YouTube channel. You've got one of your latest videos talks all about the reasons. So
yeah, check out that video. It's called Pornography ! And but I don't think that sexuality is something to be ashamed of. And additionally, this is not a porn that you've ever seen before. And I don't want to give too much away because I do have the price jacked up pretty high because I have been working for 44 days straight on this, waking, working, sleeping, waking, working, sleeping. It's huge. To shoot it yourself, to edit it yourself. Most of the music is my own music, but I've used a few songs from Christina Martin and Jeremy Garner as well. so just it's been a huge amount of work, and so it is $222. I had the price originally at $444,
Mm-hmm.
and then I realized that that's really expensive, and I want people to be able to see it. So I feel like people could somehow get together the 222 if they really do want to see it. But the thing is that I am a full-time pop star cult leader, and this is my job now. And it's also what I value it at. So the price, I'm not ashamed of the price at all. I just,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to appear as though like I'm so excited about these profits or anything, but I am pretty excited about the profits from it because it's really taking a huge part of my, of who I am. And that's what I'm kind of selling, you know, it's an honest depiction of my creativity, of my sexuality, of my,
Mm-hmm.
of who I am, and it's pretty probably one of the closer glimpses that you could get to Unicole Unicron.
Yeah, I know. I think it's actually a really brilliant idea, and I laugh at the price, but at the same time, like I understand your motivations for it. I read your Reddit AMA, and you said like, well, it's intentional to create a high value product and record it on VHS because you're basically creating an artifact, and you're smart enough and you're smart and you're conscious enough to know that this is just going to create more conversation about it, and someone's going to rip it to the internet and then post it for free, and because that it's got a high price, it creates more mystique about it. And I love what you said. You owned it in such simple terms. You're like, my sexuality, my terms. And I was like, you know what? I mean, I really admire that because so many people, entrepreneurs and creators and artists, are so ashamed of charging for their work. So they're ashamed about making money, and then they're also doubly ashamed about their sexuality in a lot of ways. I come from a place where, yeah, I've dealt with shame about making money and shame about my sexuality. And those have been two things that I've had to heal a lot in the past 2 years. So listeners of my podcast, yeah, listeners of my podcast know, yeah, okay, they say traditionally men are socialized to be like these sexually liberated guys. It's okay for guys to go out there and have a lot of sex. But that's not the case for me. That's not how I was raised. I was raised that guys that do that are basically evil people. You don't want to be like that. So I kind of desexualized myself and suppressed a lot of that. And then so now in a lot of the healing work, because I would look at women who were very sexual, and when I was younger, I would think of them as slutty. That's the perception. But when I started doing my own healing work on it, I would talk to sexually empowered women and look up to them. Like, how do you do it? How do you justify or how do you allow yourself to go out there and have a lot of sex and explore that part of yourself? Because when I try to do it, I feel really bad about it. I feel guilty. And so they've actually helped me helped me heal a lot of that. So now when I see that you're coming out with a porn, I'm actually like so pumped for you and so excited about it. And I think it's a permission slip for all of us to be able to own our sexuality, and because what you're going to do is step out there with it on your terms, not let somebody else leak it or decide what your sexuality is. You get to decide what that is. So can you tell me, I know I kind of rambled on a little bit there, but tell me like why you wanted to choose a sex tape and how it fits into your vision, why you wanted to record this and put that out there.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. I really love that what you just shared, because it's we all have these really deep shames with sexuality. Even if we are promiscuous or even if we are out there, there's still people, we all have really weird hangups and everything about sex and about letting go and about being our true sexual selves. And I think pornography has had a lot to do with that, in the sense that like we think of sex as this one thing, that isn't actually always enjoyable for everyone, So that's just part of it. And then like there's the religious shame, the societal shame. I'm so sorry, I forgot what you asked.
Well, why did you want to make a sex tape? Like, okay, you make music, you talk spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
Where did the sex tape come into play?
Well, I love media. I'm obsessed with brainwashing, and I'm obsessed with attention. So
you just flat out own it, right? Like a lot of people are going to say she's just an attention whore. She's right. Just a slut because she's now she's charging 220. What kind of woman is this? Like she's so greedy.
I'm exactly who I am, and it's beautiful. And I have nothing to be ashamed about, because like I said, everything I'm doing is aligned with this higher purpose. And I'm in communication with really higher level beings, and I myself am a pretty higher level being. And I've allowed my higher self to integrate into into my life and into my person who I am now. And so I have no reservation about saying these things, because I do know completely that they are in alignment with this higher purpose. And this it really is challenging to people, because it does push them into really questioning why they're being so judgmental or critical, and it's always coming back into yourself. So if you look at somebody who's making a porn, you say, oh, you slut, it's like, what are you so afraid of in yourself?
Exactly.
But so the fact is that I am obsessed with all these things, and not just in my own life, but as concepts. And so there's no attention quite so rapt as someone watching and waiting for a young woman to like take her clothes off, right? You're sitting there, you're like, what? And like to see that and to like experience that, like that is like the most attention that I could ever get as a woman, And so to take that attention and again filter it through my understanding of the world, wrap it up in these higher level concepts, integrate the subliminal programming that I do, and the overt programming, and then put it back into the consumer as a truly empowered media, then that is why I chose pornography. And I see the power of pornography. I see how detrimental it has been to us as individuals and as a society, in the sense that it's instigating patriarchal ideals. It's instigating a lot of like violence, and it's taking away from a lot of potential pleasure that we could be having, and a lot of potential magic that we could be doing with each other.
Yeah, no, you're so right about that. I think that people say the same thing about money. Like money is bad. People who have money abuse it. And we end up building this like culture where you've got people who are doing good, like somehow won't accept money or won't take money, but they will take money for things that they don't like to do. And then there's the people who are empowered enough to make porn kind of have an agenda that's not very good for humanity. The people that have the ability to create mainstream pornography have a different agenda that does not necessarily align with your highest good. And so, yeah. And so like what you're doing is you're kind of flipping the script and using your ability and your soon to be celebrity to empower people to pursue their path of joy. And it's one of the more, it's like you have your whole cam church thing. So you're like, you get on your webcam and you host a little sermon or whatever. You like teach people your spiritual principles and stuff like that. What's that like for you and for your viewers?
Cam Church is every week. It's on Sunday morning, and I have a whole setup, like a whole kind of scene that I set up on my bed. And it's on My Free Cams, which is one of the lowest vibration websites I've ever been on. And so
totally. Yeah, you said something like it's a place where men can say horrible things to women and get away with it.
Yeah. It's I've really not experienced that since like the early days of the internet, on those early message boards and forums where people were just like evil to each other. So that's really kind of what's going on there. It's like really a deeply shame oriented thing. You pair the shame, and I'm talking just about the users of the website, and not all the users, but a majority of the users are using the anonymity and the free platform to just consume the really bright, beautiful, pure energies of these young women. Cam girls are amazing. And I wish I had talked more about cam girls in that video, because cam girls are some of the most innovative, smart, hardworking people that I've ever seen. They are like sunlight in a dungeon. And that's what Cam Church is, as far as being on My Free Cams. But it's really bringing the light it's changing the platform. By me coming on to My Free Cams to do Cam Church, it's really bringing this light. And people who I freaking love the idea of somebody waking up Sunday morning ready to masturbate, like dick in hand, like find Cam Church, and like they start learning about all these like higher level concepts, and they're just like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, not just high level concepts, but fucking aliens.
Yeah, aliens and like creativity and joy and all of these things, and like there's always people like interacting who are not being sexual, and sometimes people will come in. We've got a joke on Cam Church. It's like, what about the vagina? Because like people will come in and just say like, is your vagina hairy? Like, what about the vagina? Like they'll just be asking like the most ridiculous questions, and it's like obviously church. And it's like I started it thinking it would become more sexual, but
I think that the viewers and I actually appreciate having it just be church on the sexual platform, because it really creates this hilarious dynamic and this
Really? So there's no sexual component? I haven't been to church yet.
yeah, it's I have like a really, it's like I said, my sexuality, my terms, so the prices are very, very high. So theoretically it could get sexual, but like we have to have a pretty big audience for it to happen. There's a usually about I would have to be raising, right now I have it set to like $444 roughly, before I would take my robe off. And that would be $444 that people are spending, but I would only be getting like half of that because of the price platform. It's kind of messed up. They actually take half on that platform.
That is ridiculous. That's a lot.
It's a really, and they actually pay out more than any other site. So that's just,
you know what you need? You need to create your own platform now.
I know that. So yeah, so it's like, if the room together raises 400, I wear like cute lingerie. So like then I would take off my robe and be like preaching in lingerie. And then theoretically it could get more sexy from there, but I've never even taken my robe off. So
cheapskates, that's all.
We just don't have, it's not a big enough congregation yet. Usually about 30 or 40 people come, and that's a great audience. But
oh yeah. And the $444, that's a basically all the members of the group kind of contribute to get to that point, not just one person.
It's a group. Yeah, it's a group thing.
It's a brilliant concept, and I love how you're just flipping the script on it again. That's what you do.
Yeah, it's just duality. Because I believe we're all one, and the duality is false. So the fact that we feel separate from each other is not true. People who are evil actually just are good but need healing. Everybody's good. We're all one. Sexuality is holy. It's like these things seem opposite, but they're not, and that's that's how we've been brainwashed in these really repressive, suppressive ways.
So did you always feel so sexually empowered, or is that a journey that you've taken to get to this point?
It's so strange. I am super sexual, and I always have been, and I've always viewed sex as this like really casual thing. I'm like a really big promoter of polyamory, because I view sex as this like, well, it's not like you're going to get together with somebody and be like, well, you're not allowed to go bowling with somebody else. Like, no, bowling is just something we do together. Like, that doesn't make sense to me, because that's the level that I've always viewed sex, is like literally equal to like bowling. Like, I just like...
You've always viewed it that way?
Yeah. So that is actually changing now.
Yeah.
I've gone through, I'm in a relationship right now that has totally changed my whole entire understanding of sex. And I'm having telepathic sex now, and it's all energetic, like 100% energetic and 0% physical. And so like the fact that that's possible, and I've never really even spiritually connected to any of my lovers. So to do that, even from a long distance, is... it's duality. I'm just experiencing the completely other side of it. And so I think sex actually is this, can be this really balanced thing of physicality and spirituality. And for us to look at it as purely spiritual or purely physical is wrong, in both cases.
Yeah, it's a multidimensional experience all around.
Yeah, it's both things. And so that's really been my growth in that case. So, yeah, it's really interesting, because I thought I had it all figured out. I was like, no, sex is it's just fun. Like, everybody just has sex. Like, who cares? And like, now I'm like, oh, it's like, it could be meaningful. Like, it could be meaningful and magical, like really, truly magical.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know. I've grown up feeling that sex is always this magical thing. And I think I place a lot of importance because I directly associated sex with love. And so, like, a bad sexual experience would somehow make me feel like it was a bad love experience. And that was probably one of the reasons why I was so selective with my sexuality growing up. It was, I didn't think of it. I couldn't ever have casual sex. So only now in my 30s, I've decided to try to experiment with casual sex. And it's totally weird because it seems like that's the way our culture is being programmed, is basically just casual sex only, or only monogamous sex. You can't really have casual plus emotional and spiritual, because then that just makes things complicated, right? But no, I feel like I firmly believe in a non-monogamous version of sex with spirituality and multidimensional experiences that without the attachment, and I've had a few experiences like that, and it has been really good. And I didn't, some people who I've talked to have like, how did you get to that experience? Because I didn't think that was something like that was possible. It's like, well, I believe in my heart that it is possible. I know that it is there somehow. So how did you, there's like the idea of associating sex with true love. This was what was so heartbreaking, because if I couldn't get sex, I felt unloved. And that's been a big part of my healing, is to be able to have sex with somebody and not think that they did it because they loved me and they want to be with me, but because we both are adults and we both are expressing ourselves through our sexuality and our bodies. But it took me a while to get to that point where I can not dissociate, because I don't like to do that. I like to be fully present, fully emotionally engaged. And some of the people that I could potentially hook up with, they're like, I don't want the emotional part, because that's just going to make me have feelings for you, and I don't want to deal with that. But I'm like, why can't we just be both fully there? Like, and all the feelings and all the vulnerability and all of the amazingness that it could be. But that's really scary for some people.
I think the main thing is that, like, so you've come to this understanding and this realization that it should be balanced. And that's the same with me, in the sense that I was like 100%, before this relationship that I'm in now, if you had asked me if I would ever be monogamous again, I'd be like, F no. Like, that is just asking for someone to cheat on you. That is just asking for trouble. Like, I would rather be polyamorous than be cheated on. I don't like lying. I don't like dishonesty.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And so, I'm like sitting here just talking up a storm about polyamory, thinking it's like the spiritual end goal and all this stuff. Like, okay, we're going through this monogamous phase and we're going to go into polyamory, and then we'll all be polyamorous. And after this relationship, like, it's been really crazy, because I've had to really look into my own heart and really truly decide what I want to be. And I found out that I am someone who does desire to be monogamous and have that intimate connection, but I've never thought it was possible with the people around me and with the connections that I was making. And so I realized that being monogamous and having like the mindset like you're talking about, how you naturally are, to really be connecting and spiritually valuing sex it's not wrong or bad. And the thing is that it's not that we're all going to be polyamorous. It's the same as like, we're not going to all be monogamous. The thing is, we're all going to be exactly who we're going to be. And then once we all look into our own hearts and we decide what our true sexuality is, and then we can connect with each other based on that, instead of all of these thought things, like logically we should all be polyamorous because of this and that, and monogamy is this and that. And it's not like that.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Monogamy is highly beneficial for some people. Polyamory is highly beneficial for some people. Like, we can all just do whatever we want. That's actually enlightened.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people go the anti-monogamy route and come back to monogamy, as sort of after they've learned. But then they use that as a platform to say that monogamy is the answer, because they tried poly and it didn't work, or they tried poly and things just went horribly wrong, or whatever. And it's like
things go horribly wrong in monogamy all the time.
They do, I know. And if you can be single and things just went horribly wrong. I tried being celibate and I got a sexually transmitted disease somehow. How did that happen? So where do we go from here? Okay, is there anything left you want to talk about with your sex tape? Actually, when does it come out? A couple of days,
Valentine's
right?
Day.
Valentine's Day. Okay, so this podcast will be out before that. So Valentine's Day, where can they get it?
On my Square store. If you go to my website, Unicole.com, there's a whole tab for unicorn. And check out the Unicole. I do so much, and so it's hard for me to like talk about it all, but go to my website, look around, go to whatever you're drawn to, watch my YouTube video. If you're curious about me and want to learn more, like, there's pretty much infinite information. I put all of my journals online. I'm very open about who I am and what I'm doing. And so that creates a lot of content just in that honesty. So, shop at Unicole Supply Co. That's my store. We sell magical items, and the store's going to be growing. I'm getting actually magical knives custom made right now for spellcasters to be using.
That's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of crystals and things like that. So it's a good store.
Good. Okay, so Unicron.com is your home base. You can find everything that you need there. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I feel like the energy's wrapping up. It's probably be a good place to wrap up, right?
Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot. I feel like we were talking pretty fast. I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
Are you still not drinking coffee?
No. I go through periods like long breaks and then back on, long breaks
When I
and back on.
listened to you guys talking about not drinking coffee, I was like pained. I was like, oh, they should just have some coffee.
Yeah, if they just had some coffee, their problems would be solved right now, obviously. No,
Yeah,
it's definitely one of those things that like it the anti-coffee thing bubbles up into my reality when I feel like my body wants a detox. And same
that
thing
makes
with like being off social media or something like that. There's a reason for me to disconnect and go within. And my primary reason for going off coffee was like, who am I that's not like medicated or caffeinated? Who is this person? There's a beautiful being that rests underneath the energy of the caffeine, you know? Like I want to have inspiration that comes from reality, like real, and rather than the caffeine that opens up my vibration. And but then, you know, after a few weeks of that, it's like it starts to feel like a safe choice again. Like my body's like, yeah, you can have that. Like, because I'll definitely fight with
because you
myself.
know.
I'll fight with myself, thinking like, well, I told myself I wasn't going to have it, but should I continue to not have it to maintain this streak? You know, it's like a disciplined feeling, and that also doesn't resonate. I need to go with what feels good, feels with my heart and my truth. And you know, sometimes coffee gets me in that space where I become a good creator. Like some of my best work has come under the influence of caffeine. You know, like it just gets me there. But then when I become dependent on it, and I still feel shitty all day, and I'm extra anxious and jittery. That's a good
Right.
time to say like, cut it out.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between listening to your body and listening to your heart than if you just like think, oh, it's not spiritual to drink coffee. I can't, you know, because coffee is, I think of it as like an energy of, we don't live in a society where your productivity, like we value productivity so much, and coffee gives us that. And so coffee as that tool to like be participating in this society as the way it's like set up is just, I love it. I love it. If we did all just like have our days to ourselves and we are all just chilling out and like productivity wasn't a thing because literally we already had everything figured out, then we could not drink coffee and we could take naps and we could just rest and do whatever we needed to do. But right now I
Hmm.
think if you're drawn to coffee, I don't know, some people feel so guilty about it, but I don't think you should feel guilty.
No, no, no. What you said is good because coffee is like the nectar or the resource for the matrix. I mean, it's like if you want to be
Yeah.
productive, this is like the fuel, you know, to like
I
enhance your
don't think
productivity.
capitalism could exist without coffee, honestly.
Absolutely not. That's why they give it away for free in
Yeah.
corporations. It's the fuel that keeps the worker bee buzzing, you know.
Yeah.
Imagine if they cut out coffee from all corporate environments and Starbucks closed across the universe. That would be like riots in the streets. People would
Yeah.
realize like, shit, I don't want to work at this crappy job because the coffee's gone. And I'm like, I need to leave.
I'd be
So
like, I can't get up
the
for
entire
this.
structure of the matrix depends on coffee.
That's such a good point.
And then alcohol to numb
Let
everyone
loose.
after it's
Yeah.
over, you know. I don't drink alcohol. I never have, so that's never been an issue for me. But
I'm not
coffee,
drawn
yeah,
to it. And there's just like this party, the party scene is, it's pop music is really about that, you know, like the party is a big theme in pop music and letting go and getting drunk and,
yeah,
letting go of your worries. And it's not always very effective because then you're just drunk.
yeah. That becomes another thing to worry about after a certain
Yeah.
point. Another thing to be like, shit, I'm so disappointed with myself and my life.
Yeah. A lot of people feel that way and then they just have a drink to forget that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that that's wrong
No, I know. And I
either.
don't want to like say it either. And like people, it's not bad to have, I don't know. I don't think alcohol is like a very good drug as far as like, the drugs that we could potentially be accepting in our culture, as like the way we demonize certain drugs and then accept certain drugs. Alcohol as an accepted drug is very strange to me because there's a lot of other drugs that we demonize that would actually be more beneficial for us, I think.
Yeah, and the demonization is all propaganda anyway.
Yeah.
I totally know because I grew up, I was very anti-drug, and because I was a very purist type of person with my sexuality and my drug-free nature. So like I would definitely think that like marijuana was horrible, because it was illegal. So kids who did marijuana, I thought that were really bad kids. And
we had so much brainwashing against marijuana when we were kids. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
Except for the kids that listened to 311 and Cypress Hill. They were all about it.
But that was like almost like not mainstream. Like the mainstream culture is like wacky tobacco and weed is like gonna do this and that. And like, I mean, we had like a whole DARE program where like they taught us about how like gun safety. At the same time, they taught us about like pairing stories of like kids shooting their siblings with like smoking weed, and like you're just like, what is going on? Like, I don't think that this is actually how it's gonna be.
No, that's awful.
And then like it's a gateway drug, and it's like aspirin is a gateway drug. What's the first drug you take? That's a gateway drug.
NyQuil.
Yeah.
Dayquil. When you're a kid.
Alcohol is a gateway drug.
Gateway drug. That's interesting.
It doesn't even mean anything.
You're a gateway drug to the spiritual.
To enlightenment.
All right. Well, I think this is good. We're about wrapped up.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We're just like we could talk probably all day.
Well, hey, I'd be down with that if you ever want to Skype again or collaborate. I think that there could be a good collaboration come on. Like, music would be fun too.
Yeah,
Musical
definitely.
collaboration. You've got a really good voice and a good artistic style. I like to create hip hop inspired, like trap, EDM, punk rock music. So perhaps there's a collaboration there, and definitely Starseed Supply Company. When I get that up and running, I think you could.
Yeah, I'm excited.
You would be a good participant in that.
We'll have you on our podcast.
Oh yeah, okay, let's do that.
Unicast.
The Unicast, yeah, I would love that. So we'll figure something out. But it was very, very great talking to you. And so just one last reminder, where can our listeners find you?
Unicron.com or universe.com. That's 1's for I's and 3's for E's. UN1V3RS3.com.
Not complicated at all. You guys got okay. Or just click the link in the show notes. You'll find it. All right. Well, thanks again, listeners, for another episode of the Make or Mistaker podcast. You can find us on iTunes. Give us a rating. If you think this is delightfully weird, I would appreciate a 5-star rating. Don't give me the 1 star. This is just magical thinking bullshit. That's not going to help anybody. Don't do that. Give me 5 stars. Okay. Take care. And until next time, stay conscious, everyone.
Spirituality, how my children listen to me. Pop spirituality, pop changes.